And now, this week's edition of Big Face with your host, Samantha Jane Tilton.
All right, everybody, welcome to Big Face with my lovely guest, Michael Christoforo, my dear friend through acting and also a breath coach extraordinaire, would we say?
Jane, so good to see you.
My love. I have so many questions about the breath coach stuff.
Yeah, sure.
We'll get there. But
Yeah.
how the...
I know, it's like fam. It's like, there she is. There's my fam.
I haven't seen this face.
It's been, truly, I think it's been a couple of years. It's one of those things where it's like, we just, we always pick up where we left off, and it's like, seeing someone that you've known for many lifetimes, like, oh, yeah, here you are. Here you are in this lifetime.
It's always like that with you. That's why, like, it doesn't matter how long can go by. I can text you and just like, you're somebody that stays in my heart. Like after so long, like, I'm just like, I miss my friend. Like, yeah. I miss you,
You're a lifer, kid.
You're a lifer. Oh man. All right. So yeah, so it really has been a long time. You hearing me okay, my bud?
Yeah, it's coming through both of these. I'm hearing myself through here, but you through there.
So is that bad? Wait, you're hearing yourself through one?
Yeah, I'm hearing both, but it's like you're coming through there and I'm coming through here. It's fine.
I'm coming through the external mic.
Yeah, let me.
Hold on, I'm pausing it again because
we're good.
Okay.
You can hear me okay still? It's all good.
Yeah, I can hear you, but as long as I'm not coming through the external.
No, this is brilliant. This is how it should be.
You're brilliant.
Yeah.
Now you. Oh my God, I'm so happy you're here right now. Yeah, so to my big face people, so if you're tuning in, Mike and I were in class together. How many years ago was that? We were in acting class.
Maybe like 12 years.
Was it 12 years ago? It's a long.
Yeah.
So everybody, when I see people, they're like, "Oh, it was like 5 years ago," and I'm like, "Dude, I haven't been in class in years."
It's been like I realistically like at least 10 years ago.
It has been.
Because I remember I still have, if I was in New York, I would get it right now. I still have my notebook from his class.
From Anthony's class?
Yeah, I would just take notes, like still whenever I'm in any class, I just have a notebook always. But his class, and I remember seeing 08, 09 in the time, in my date for when I first started. So
yeah.
So I ended probably like 2000.
Wow.
11.
11.
Yeah.
He's right on top of that, kids.
Yeah. September 38th, 11.
There's an episode of Parks and Rec. Did you ever watch that?
No.
Oh man, where April, Nick Offerman plays Ron Swanson, and he works for the Parks Department. He doesn't want to like talk to anybody. So whenever she schedules, she's like, I could set you December 60th, blah, blah, blah.
That's funny. That's great.
Every date is like ridiculous.
I'm sure that's where it came from. Cause I probably heard a reference to like someone referencing that, but that's hysterical. Yeah,
so
totally.
funny, dude. Oh, you have to, dude, you would love that show.
Yeah.
I can't even, all right. So talk to me. So tell me what your life has been like. All right. So when I knew Mike, he was like, not that you were ever baby faced, but he didn't have this scruff going on.
We had a little stubble.
We had just a little stubble.
Little stubble.
And now you've kind of encroached on a whole different, I feel like, avenue of your life in these last couple of years. Yeah. Or no? Yeah,
big time. In a way, I mean, it certainly highlighted different areas of my life that weren't the focus before. But yeah, I think it's all part of the same thing. It's just, where I am right now with breath work in particular and in, meditation work and traveling around, especially with the two modalities that I'm teaching. And I'm finding, a lot of intersection between the two, between performing and doing workshops and things like that. And also the techniques themselves and how they can help anyone on any level, but artists in particular too. So yeah, it's been interesting. It's been because, prior to that were like really successful for what I considered successful years for performing. And I was like, man, I got to get other areas of my life like up to par. So.
Were you unhappy performing and acting?
part of me, I was very grateful, and I love, you love performing, but I realized that after a while I was like, oh, this is why you don't do like anything artistic for money. I felt like I was like successful in a sense because I was a working actor for a few years. But at the end of the day, I remember I was doing, this is maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years, 5, yeah, maybe around there, where things were really good. Like they were
Yeah.
really, really good. But then I look back and I was like, man, I spent 9 months of my life, whether it was prepping, shooting, or doing all the stuff after for this stuff. And I was
Yep.
like, do I really care about it? And I was like, no, I don't. These aren't the roles that are like making a difference or why we started. And like, I'm well aware I'm sounding like a actor brat, whatever. But
No, you're not. You're being honest.
I didn't feel fulfilled in that way. And I was like, man, I got to get different areas of my life like up to par in terms of where I want to be, and see where it leads me on this end
So
years
did you
later.
yeah. So did you kind of stop acting altogether and start on a different pathway, or did
No,
it kind
not
of?
all. Yeah, not altogether. I mean, I made a conscious decision to get different certifications and to go to study with different people for periods of time. And it was before when I was like, working a lot. I wouldn't leave for vacations. I wouldn't go and do certification trips for a couple weeks on end because I might
Yeah.
miss a call or an audition, or how it is. You feel this like this angsty duty to like be
Yep.
there, because God forbid you're not, then you're not legit. And it just, I was like, man, I'm not living my life. Like I'm trying to live this role, but it's not necessarily all of me. And I was like, we're gonna be dead soon. What the fuck am I doing? Like this is just a part of who I am. And if I'm not feeling fulfilled, then go and do these other things where you feel purposed and like you're making a true difference.
Yep.
And then see where it leads you on the artistic front, because it's going to be so much more powerful if you're doing something authentically to yourself. And if not, then it wasn't meant to be. Then
Yep.
this idea of like what it means to be an artist, or in our case, an actor, is like,
Yep.
it's kind of nonsense.
It's
Well, not
interesting.
nonsense. It's misrepresented. I'll say that it's
Yeah.
misrepresented.
I was speaking to somebody recently and talking about the same thing that you're talking about. And you're kind of being an actor, you're on call 24/7.
Right.
You're on call for something you're not even working, but you're on call. You are meant to give your entire life to the possibility of something.
Right.
And I think in all of that time and space, for myself, I'm limited to go explore every other part of myself or every other part of life,
Mm-hmm.
because you're chained to one thing. So
Totally.
yeah, so I get that. So
Totally.
you were just talking about certification, and what are you speaking about that for? Certification for things like,
Oh, for different breath modalities, everything. Like when it was a very purposeful decision to go and study with Wim Hof when I did. There were things that were happening in my life where it was like, they were certainly changing my scope and perspective. And I was like, wow, there are people that I want to seek out in terms of like mentorship that are doing some like uber legit thing, like crazy, like life things, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Like well beyond the scope of just art, or well beyond the scope of just athletics or whatever have you.
Yeah.
It's like life stuff. And I was like, I just want to meet these people. I want to study with them. I want to see what it is. Because I was feeling this void, and it's I think purpose was more the void of what it is. I think it's really important to seek purpose. Like we oftentimes like go through periods of like seeking happiness, which is great
Yeah.
for an extent. But I think for lasting happiness, I think seeking purpose is at least for me anyway, was more important at the time. And I was
Yeah.
like, man, I'm just not feeling a purpose. I feel like I have all this, I have something to give. I don't know necessarily what that is or
Yeah.
whatever, but I feel like I have something, and I'm not doing it now. And it leads to depression and anxiety and just a whole bunch of, nonsense. And I'd had a meditation, yoga, breath, mindfulness practice for, 15 years, 20 years till
Yeah.
that point. And I was like, man, there's something here. I feel great when I do this. And then even just with my friends or family or smaller groups, when I would, teach or be a part of that, it felt great. Like it felt great. It felt like to me like doing a great project. You know what I mean? Where it's
Yeah,
like,
I
no,
do.
this is making a difference. Like we're doing something that can really help here. You know, it's like that. And I was like, man, I want to check this out where like this becomes base level and all the projects that I want to choose now are just in addition to this base level of like purpose, security,
Yeah.
abundance, you know, the different areas of your life that have to be, you know, fulfilled for the whole pie to be complete. And I was
Yeah.
like, man, doing all these other things are fulfilling more, and I feel more purpose when I'm doing this one thing that,
Yeah.
like, you know, performing at that point that was filling up all the rest of the chart before. And I was like, I wanted to seek something that was more sustaining, so I could choose what I wanted to choose artistically.
I don't think I'll at least speak for myself. I was going to say, I don't think you're alone in that. Yeah, I wanting to find purpose. I don't, I feel like I've struggled with the same things at times. Like, I feel like I have things inside of me that I feel like I'm meant to give to the world, or that I want to share, and that come from love. But sometimes it can feel like but I don't know what that is or how to get that across. And a lot of it is for me being blocked by my own stumbling blocks, you know?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think that's what a lot of people, we're our own worst enemy, especially
Yeah.
artists. I mean, I can, you know, especially artists, we're our own worst enemy.
Yeah. And you spoke a lot about how it's helped you. So I want you to speak a little about the breathwork stuff, because it's Greek to me. Like, to some degree, I know meditating and breathing, but when you talk about breathwork, you've done a lot of research and exploring into this. And I kind of want to get a better idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you've said that, like, when we just touched base quickly the other day to schedule this, to get to talk, you were saying how many artists you've met doing this, practicing this now, that it's helped, and that, so I want to kind of hear about it.
Yeah, I think a big part of the greater understanding of it is how physiologically that it can affect us. And a big part of understanding how physiologically it can affect us is understanding our biology. And to me, that was like insanely fascinating, that just the way we breathe can affect all of these reactions that are happening within us. And, you know, there are a few moments throughout that, like, you touch this space of just like, oh my God, that's what it is. That's it. I don't know what it is, but that's that thing, you know. It's almost like and it could have been at the time like a DMT trip. You know, breathing, you can activate DMT. It's, you know, a molecule that exists in your lungs and in your eyes, and it's believed it's associated with the pineal gland, like all throughout, you know, Egyptology, or even the Greeks and Romans would talk about the pineal gland, and that's why like acorns are represented everywhere throughout, and like the Fibonacci sequences, all these, you know. So the pineal gland essentially is it's a part of our brain that is responsible for like melatonin and serotonin, and that's why the eyes are affected, and there's DMT in the eyes. But they call it the God particle, and every living thing has DMT in it, right? They can't exist without it. So same thing with us. So they call it the God particle because everything is interconnected. Well, there are certain, you know, breath techniques and beliefs where you can activate DMT, so you have these spiritual experiences. And there have been a couple times when I first, like, you know, 15 years ago, that happened, and I didn't know what happened or what it was or whatever. And it was just like, oh my God, like, what was that? And it was just like quest, almost like you're chasing this thing. And then I did, you know, a round. This is 5 years ago at this point, 4 or 5 years, a round of Wim Hof breathing, and I was there in like 3 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, this is fucking crazy. What is this? And the more that I did it, the more I was like, I have to learn what's going on. Like, one, I have to meet this guy, but two, I have to understand what's happening in my body.
Yeah.
So as I like to say now, what I was on a quest to do is bring like the woo-woo to reality. And I think a big part of doing that is understanding how physically things work, like the mechanisms of which, anyway, you know, parts of our body work, and how the breath can affect that specifically. And the more I dug, the more I was like, man, people got to learn about this. especially like you look at times now, we're in a pandemic, like just the way that we breathe can help with our immune system. You know what I mean? Just understanding of our sympathetic and our parasympathetic nervous system and the difference between the two and how you can activate the parasympathetic nervous system is vital right now. You know, we're talking about chronic inflammation, which is 80% of all disease in our body, is because most people can't get into a parasympathetic state. The parasympathetic state is like the brake pedal of our nervous system. They call it the rest and digest, or the breed and feed part of the nervous system. It's when we rest. It's when like you're in a trusted environment. It's when we heal. It's when we commune. It's when we digest food. It's when we get back to homeostasis, like base level, so our cells can heal. Right? So when we're in a sympathetic state, that's like a fight or flight response, right? So our adrenaline's up, but it also means that our inflammatory chemicals are up. If you think about like that, the hormones, you know, like cortisol for one. So if we're constantly in a sympathetic state, meaning we're constantly stressed, it means we're constantly inflamed. So that's why there's like so much rampant disease because of chronic inflammation. Well, especially now with times that are so stressful, we're constantly being bombarded with stress, whether it's from the computer or TV, or we're constantly being bombarded. So we very rarely get into a parasympathetic state. Well, what a lot of people don't, I say a lot, but I was one of them. The way that you breathe, what you're witnessing and what you're experiencing affects the way that you breathe, and the way that you breathe affects the inner workings of how you operate.
Well, what I was going to say, it's just amazing because if you think about any aspect of life, when you're not doing well, or the first thing people always tell you to do is breathe. Like that is, or like breathing is the most essential thing that we do to stay alive. Like we have to breathe. And it's amazing. I'll speak for myself. Even when I've gone to physical therapy, they'll tell me that I don't breathe right. Like, you know, like I don't actually rest enough to breathe right. I hold on to, it sounds like kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah. And it affects so much. I mean, this sounds weird, but like you get deep into it, even the placement of your tongue.
That's what that's exactly it. That it doesn't stay on the roof of my mouth. That it lies
so
flat.
what happens is
exactly
then it gets caught in your throat a little bit more, and you're not getting in enough oxygen for your body, which, you know, ultimately means that like for sleep, you're not getting in deep REM sleep. And if you're not in deep REM sleep, you're not being fully healed. Your cells aren't, you know, reproduced. It's
fascinating.
But it's really cool. We didn't talk about this before.
I know. That's why I'm like, that's amazing. Cause it's exactly like I've been like, since I went to PT about this, and he's like, be conscious, make sure you're like, your tongue is on the roof of your mouth and you're not letting it lay there. And it's like something that I'm trying to be conscious of. So it's amazing that we're talking about it.
Yeah. We even have these strips. The other breath thing that I do is called Oxygen Advantage. It's geared more towards, well, a lot towards athletes. But it's
because you weren't always so this sounds very, like you said, woo-woo. To some people, this may sound that way. And like, you've always been very athletic, into sports and everything. So this is like it's like so aligned with that. And yet it's also such a branch further, or it's such an extension of that kind of, you know, go ahead.
It's an extension for sure. I mean, it's the same way where right now they're looking in athletics for like movement coaches. You know, where there are different coaches for like different modalities for athletics. But the breath itself, like the way that we process, the way that our body responds biochemically to the changes, meaning like the difference in carbon dioxide and oxygen in our system, is like directly connected to our performance. You know, so learning how to breathe to maximize oxygen uptake is like vital for any performer. You know, even in like for stage performers.
I'm like kind of laughing because I'm thinking of things, but I'll tell you after. Go ahead.
I'm sure the connections are like crazy, because that's the thing. It's like everything that we do, the breath is connected. So it's like whatever your avenue you're going in, it's like, oh yeah, I can see that. But you know, one of the things that happens if we don't like breathe from the diaphragm, it's one of the reasons why it's so important for athletes and also performers to breathe from the diaphragm, because if not, blood gets taken from the legs, so your legs give way. So it's like you're not on stable ground. a lot happens within the body when we don't properly breathe that compensates for the fact that we're not properly breathing. And it's a whole slew
Wow.
of bad. Even just mouth breathing. We're not supposed to mouth breathe ever.
I know.
And we see a shit
So I'm
ton
learning.
of mouth breathe. Yeah. Yeah. It's bad. Like mouth breathing is not good. There's a reason. Who was it?
It's not good.
It was like Bert Kreischer or one of those comedians were like, yeah, my kids are mouth breathers. You know what I mean? It was like that. And there's just this understanding that like mouth breathers are just like a little under the intelligence radar. And there's a reason for it. It's because their brains are constantly inflamed. They're not getting proper oxygen to their brain. It's like.
That's fascinating. That's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Wow. Okay.
That's a t-shirt. Don't be a mouth breather.
I know. I'm like, dude, that's his. Nobody can take it.
Yeah.
Copyrighted. But like, so you said like, you know, do you feel like you've been feeling since exploring this more? Do you feel like you've been feeling more whole and
oh my God. Yeah.
purposeful?
Yeah, 1,000%. And it's open. What's funny too is like the rooms that I'm in now are like the rooms that I was trying to like knock on for years acting wise. Like the people that I'm meeting, the people that I'm meeting, like the opportunities for acting are much more prominent because of like this thing and how I'm looked at here and like meeting the people that and then it's like, oh, wait, you also do that thing? Oh my God, you should come and do this stuff. I got to introduce you to these people. This is fucking crazy. Because even right now, if you wanted to do a round, like we could do a round, it takes 3 minutes to do, but the what you feel is just insane. So the people that experience it, it's like, it's, I know this sounds woo woo, but it's like an honest
not to me. I'm giving like listeners and viewers the like, I know some of you don't feel like that, you know, about certain things and you're kind of like, hey, all right, buddy. But no, I'm with you. I'm definitely open. And there are a lot of people that are as well.
To me, it's like the soul like resides in the stillness, right? Those you get the true messages of your higher self when you're in stillness. And this is the most efficient way that I've ever found in a couple of decades of searching for something to get there, to get to that stillness, to get to that vastness. And you're just there. Like you just are. And it's like to me, it's like the place of creativity, and whatever it is that you want to create, you can create, but it's like opportunity resides there.
And need it be very difficult to start trying to practice things like this? And
no,
I know, and I want to hear about where people can find you and your work, and, you know, and we're going to get there because I think it's important. But yeah, is it something like, is it overwhelming? For me to start anything, it's like, oh, but this is the whole thing.
No.
Can it be simple?
Yeah, big time. I mean, there are plenty of apps that, you know, exist where not just, YouTube clips of whatever. Like for me, I started just looking at YouTube Wim Hof stuff for Wim. I started looking at that. Yeah. And that sent me on a whole different path. But I remember years ago looking at Brian Weiss. Brian Weiss is I believe he still runs the Mount Sinai Clinic in Miami University. He's an MD. Okay. But he essentially was one of the like pioneers of regression meditation, like going into past life regressions.
Yeah.
And I did a few things with him as well. And I started, I think, just typing in like Brian Weiss meditations or whatever, and there was some like breathing there, and then I was like, oh, that's cool. I liked how I felt when I was breathing. And like for me, it's difficult just to sit there and like, oh, like, you know, I got to be doing something. I'm an active dude, so it's like doing stuff like where it's breath and continual. And then it's like, okay, now we're going to, you know, ease into, it's like much easier for me than to just sit there, you know? So I was like, oh, wow, this breath, there's something to that. I dig it. I like it. It's active. And then I, you know, going through different breath modalities from, you know, Kundalini or different kinds of yoga practices or prana practices.
Yeah.
then I found WIM, and I was like, God, man, this is it. This is it. And then I was like, okay, I really have to learn scientifically, like, what is happening. And that's when I started going with the Oxygen Advantage that I just finished up with. Before I came here, I was out in LA studying with Patrick McEwen, and like learning about the biology and physiology helped me really understand the spiritual more. And then, you know, I got much deeper into different things, like if you want to go down a woo-woo path, you know, you look up
All for it.
you look up, I mean, you can do it on your computer right now, like,
Yeah.
you know, Egyptian, just look up the Eye of Horus and the thalamus. And
Okay,
you'll
hold
see
on.
that if the brain, Sammy, check it out, right? If I were to cut my brain in half like this,
Mm-hmm.
and open it up like this, you know, the Eye of Horus, it's like the
That's
Egyptian
the first thing
eye.
yeah.
That looks like the thalamus of the brain. So like a lot of Egyptology, a lot of symbols are of the actual physical body and what they represent. So check it out. And
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
it's crazy. And I mean, that's
Huh.
just the tip of the iceberg to a lot of this stuff. So it started sending me down these like other like deep holes. And I was like, man, this is fucking crazy. I got to learn like both scopes, the spiritual, holistic, or like mystical, whatever, along with the, you know, practical science and biology of it.
So, all right. You just came back from, so you're in Boston right now.
Yeah. At the time, because this is maybe like 2 months ago, and like Corona had just hit, and I texted my roommates, and I was like, hey, I'm planning on catching the red eye coming back, and they're like, oh, you're coming back.
Don't ever do that.
They're like, you're coming back? And I was like, yes, I was planning on. They're like, maybe not.
Yeah.
Good idea.
I know.
So I was like, all right, well, I'll go to Massachusetts.
So you had
all
just
my shit's in New York, and I'm here.
And you're in Boston, which is home for you, or was home.
Yeah, well, my parents, this is their home, and
Right.
this is the house I grew up in, and they're in Florida right now for a few months, and they're not planning on coming back because of everything. So I was like, you know, it's just a house. I'd much rather be here, chilling in an empty house than
being outside and
being in an apartment with, you know, in Brooklyn with really nowhere to go. So
exactly, yeah, it's tough. So you were in the middle. You were in LA, and you had been studying then. That was
I was out there doing like hosting workshops, doing them, and then the certification was a big reason why I was out there. And I was like, oh, I'll teach while I'm out there, and just turn it into kind of like a workcation for a few months. I wanted to set it up. That was the other thing too. That getting back to what we were talking about before with acting, where I was like, what do I want out of my life? And I was like, I care so deeply about hanging out with my family and friends, and it's like, for me to be a prisoner of oh no, I have to be here, I was like, fuck that, man, like nah, something's up, that ain't bala shit, you know. And I was like, I was like, what do I want to do? And I said I want to organize my life where I can go for extended periods of time to places where my loved ones are, and set up communities there where I can teach this stuff, because it's transformative, and hang out with them. And, you know, that they also happen to be in places where, you know, it's LA and New York and Boston, where, you know, film industry and everything is big. But
I mean, you found a way to carve out a life for yourself and find a way to love it and make it work for you, as opposed to having to work. And not that you don't work for your life, but that it works for you. You don't have to be a slave to somebody else's parameters.
Yeah, that was a big part of it, was time frame, and just always having to be on someone else or some other time frame. And it's like, no, that ain't bala shit. I want to make my own schedule and have, you know, things fill into that, not me always having to go search, like, how can I create my life so this stuff just comes into the parameters in which I set. Like, we all need boundaries. Yeah. You know, one of the things I still quote Abe to this day, where it's like, the banks of the river
have to be fixed.
Have to be so strong so the river can just flow. If not, it's still water. And it's like, to me, I get kind of woo-woo, where like I feel the universe is the same way. You have to give it parameters in which, you know, you want to operate under, or else shit will just come flooding in, and you get overwhelmed, or nothing will come in because you won't allow it, because you don't know what you want. But I was like, no, I want to set this like this, where I'm setting my stuff. And if
Yep.
it's something that I want to do, then I'll bring it into my schedule. And, I looked at it in a way of like, I'm a boss running a company, and the company just happens to be myself and, my life. And then once that started happening, and I was like, oh, then other things happened. Like I met my business partner, and we, started companies, and it was like, okay, this is how it's supposed to, this is flow. This is like what flow
Yes.
is,
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so, it's really interesting. So you just talked about your business partner. So I want to hear about your businesses, but I just wanted to ask you before we go there, what kind of a space were you in before Corona? Like you had just left, you were getting certificated. You were on a high.
Oh yeah, big time. I just done, so for the past 2 years or so, I've been traveling around the country doing Wim Hof workshops, or traveling around, doing sometimes with, huge groups of people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Tony Robbins-y type shit, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And you're like buzzing because I'm one of the people on stage, and it's like, so anyway.
No, it's wonderful. That's amazing.
There were 4 or 5 workshops out in LA that were surrounding this certification process, and the certification process was something that I've been studying for and been getting at for a bit, and this was the 3-4 day culmination of it. So it was like all of the workshops too, because of fucking you. Gwyneth Paltrow has single-handedly like skyrocketed ticket sales for all of us in the Wim Hof community because of her Goop series.
Yes.
Right. So this was after that. So
I've never seen it, but I know.
Me neither.
Yeah.
So yeah. So all of my events sold out. You know what I mean? So it was like the 4 events that were kick ass. Like I was out there with my buddy who he's fam. He and his wife are family, and she's deep in the entertainment industry. She's she's a writer for a network show.
That's great.
And it was just like, oh, okay, this is what it's supposed to be. Like this is the plan culminated. This is the beginning stages of like us growing the empire on different fronts and on the same path as well. And then Corona was just like, pow, psych.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. And I think that's like, it's funny because that was for me, like it took me a while in my own life to get to a point where I was like, all right, I'm carving out this space for myself in the universe.
Yeah, because you've been hustling for a fucking minute, man.
Yeah, right? Like, man, thanks. Because But then I was like, you know what? And then I decided to do this podcast, not this one, Big Face, what was originally supposed to be. And it was something that I felt was good for me to do. It was going to help other people. And I was just happy that I was going to be doing this because it felt like it was going to be a good thing and purposeful. And then Corona happened. And then my spirit just went like, I just felt like, what is the point of anything? And like and it took me a hot second to get out of it and to realize and to get out of myself. And I'm not the only one struggling. And to realize that I could use what I was going to do in a different way and still help people. And,
right.
And so that, we've talked about this, but do you feel like, how do you feel like you've been doing since Corona kind of messed your plans? And that's the first part A.
It's weird because some things are really great. Like some things are really great. So there's also that guilt of like feeling really good right now. You know what I mean?
And that's okay though.
Right. And then there's other parts where it's like, I got, I took a chop to the nards, like heavily financially.
Yeah.
So it's like, but right now I have a house where I don't have to pay rent at my parents' house that I'm staying in right now. So there's a blessing. Like my freezer's stocked full of food that, I don't have to worry for the next few months of like, oh, well, am I
I know.
you know, that kind of thing. It's like there's things are accessible. I was thinking the other day, just in terms of like, if shit were like, what do I like need? I was like, what other things do I like, quote unquote, need right now? And I was like, really just another, granted, this is a Sasquatch talking, but I was like, a supply, a supply of clean water. Cause I was like, look at how fucking
bet.
fragile we are.
No, I know.
Look at how fragile we are. What if something happened to our water?
And-
Like I'm looking out in my backyard again. Granted, it's me talking, but I'm like I could survive on some
Love you.
squirrels. I like there are enough squirrels and birds here. I'd be all right. Like, but if shit were to really go down, I don't know how to distill water. I don't know how to like turn, you know, shit water into clean water and things.
I know.
God, we're fucking fragile.
It's
So
crazy.
in one way, I'm like, things are amazing. I don't really have any worries. Like, I'm not the one that's probably going to be affected by this. So I have to like be cool to make sure that other people aren't in contact, you know, with me, and just do my part as a citizen in that regard. And also I want to help, you know, we're starting to reach out to first responders and to people in the healthcare industry, because they're on the front lines, and they oftentimes don't take a moment for themselves. So we're offering like free stuff for them and things like that. So a whole slew of emotions, to fully answer your question, like going back and forth from, man, things are really good right now, to fuck, there's a pandemic right now, man, to like, hey, how much of this is inflated, and how much of this is like what is real? And that's another part, is like we don't know what's real or not, and the unknowing drives you crazy too. So there's a whole slew of it. I mean, but overall, in terms of health and in terms of like family health and happiness, and great, all the important things, like there was we used to have neighbors across the street from us, and the woman's father, I fucking loved this guy. He didn't have more than a fifth grade education, but was just a businessman, a badass, like a man's man, and a multi-millionaire, self-made. And he
Love that.
he like, I lost like $5 or something one day, and like that to me, you know, when I growing up, you had money, and I was like, and I
When you're a kid,
and he goes, you know, if money's your problem, you don't have real problems. If money's your only problem, you don't have like real problems. See, that's some, and I was like, you know, what the fuck, I lost $5, man. It's like a pack of baseball cards. You know what that is? Can be a Ken Griffey Jr. in there.
This guy doesn't fucking know.
The potential of loss is great right now, sir.
This guy don't know shit.
Yeah, idiot. Go back to school, get your 6th grade diploma. But he was, you know, this is a dude that saw a lot of like real stuff, you know, like came to on a boat here, and we provided the family back in, you know, the old country, like that kind of thing. So it always hit me. So I mean, financially, it's been fucking shitty. I've had to cancel like six events so far, which is that's my, you know, that's income.
That's it. Yeah.
That's my 100.
That's it. Yeah.
You know, so, but you know, I'm healthy. Things can be much, much worse. I got 2 arms. They work.
Right.
2 legs. Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
How do you think you'd be doing emotionally without the breath work? Just curious how it affects things.
I'm sure I'd have a lot more anxiety. That's for sure.
I want in on this breath work. Like, I want to get it.
We should do a sesh. We should do a session.
For real. And so it's interesting. So it's not just all being still and like meditative. It's actually active. That's really interesting for me.
Well, the thing that's super cool about it too is it automatically puts you into that stillness where you're like, it catapults you there. So you're just there, and you're like, oh my God, like, first of all, I'm holding my breath for an extraordinarily long time. That's kind of weird. But then you just like, okay, well, I don't need to breathe right now. That was one of the things with me, like understanding what was happening physiologically. Like, wait, I'm holding my breath. I'm getting like, am I depleting my overall oxygen? Am I like, what is happening? Why don't I want to breathe right now? If I don't have enough oxygen, how am I not? and then started learning about how CO2 affects your body and what you can do with the breath to alkalize your blood, where you drop the CO2 level. And you know, the main reason why we breathe is because carbon dioxide gets built up and we have to release it and then take oxygen, stuff like that. But when you do certain kinds of breath modalities, you can drop that CO2 level. And when you do, you can extend the breath for a real long time, and or the breath hold for quite a long time. And like what happens there is pretty extraordinary. Like the three people that just won the Nobel Prize, I think in science. Was that Nobel Prize? It was on apoxia in hypercapnia or hypocapnia, where it's like lower O2, lower CO2 levels, and what happens within the cells when that goes down, and the regeneration that happens, and you know, with the mitochondria. And it was like, it's fascinating shit, but it's like that's where the woo-woo comes to reality. Like, what happens when you hold your breath? You know, like, are you flooding your body with energy? You know, because a lot of times it's like, oh, you know, you flood your body with energy, like, feel it. And it's like, yeah, okay, what does that mean? And then it's like, once you learn, like, oh, when you hold your breath, red blood cells come out of your spleen, because that's where your blood bank is. So when you have an excess or a depletion of blood, that's where it goes, to the spleen. Well, when you hold your breath for an extended period of time, your spleen releases oxygenated red blood, right? So when you're doing these breath holds, like, what does it mean to be filled with energy? Well, you're filling your you're filling your body with highly oxygenated red blood, which then goes to your brain, which is why you feel these high feelings, right? When you do certain kind of breath work, you know, we have an endocannabinoid system. This is what fascinates me about, you know, I love cannabis. You know, I think you know
this I know.
About me. I think you know this about me.
Oh, I know.
And you know, we have an endocannabinoid system within us, and like within our brain. And it's like, when you smoke cannabis, you release this molecule called anandamide, and ananda, it means bliss. It's a bliss molecule. That's why we feel good. It's the feel good molecule. It's one of the molecules you feel good. We can do that with breath work. You can release that molecule, anandamide, with breath work, like as part of the endocannabinoid system that we tap into. And it's like, you know, there are these physiological responses that happen that affect you spiritually. And that's like kind of when I started to like bridge that, when I started to learn more about like, the physical, it made me appreciate the spiritual even more, because it's like, oh man, this is how we're physically doing something, but we're tapping into something fucking deep, man, like real deep.
Yeah.
So
I'm so intrigued.
You would love it, Sammy. You know, what you would be, I feel, a big proponent of this, especially artistically. Man, you would have ideas that would just be like, oh my God, like I want to do this and do this and do this.
Yeah.
And then you know, it kind of breaks down the walls of your self perpetuated boundaries or limitations.
That sounds like a dream to this gal. That sounds amazing. Like, that's, you know,
this is why I want to do it, you know, have different series for artists. Like we have stuff for one of our companies.
So your business partners. So you're talking your businesses. Tell us.
Yeah. So one right now that is quite important and really near and dear to us is called The Intentional Teacher. Kathy, who's my business partner, she's a public school teacher of 15, 16 years in Brooklyn. And originally what we were doing was going into the classrooms to teach administration and teachers, you know, breath and meditation, and then create an environment in the classroom where they show the kids and teach them, you know, about, you know, different kinds of ways that they can affect their body for, you know, optimal living, whatever. And it was great. It was wonderful. And then this happened, and we were like, okay, we got to switch these up where we incorporate, you know, more communities, because more, you know, parents are becoming teachers now, and it's like, how do teachers take care of themselves? So it's like, we need to create this vocabulary for health and wellness where families can do this, like at home, and schools can hire us now because they're all doing, you know, remote learning where this is being taught. Like, this wasn't taught to us before. We didn't know any of this stuff. So it's like there's a need for it. And what we were seeing too when we were in the classroom was just like the environment was that much better, you know, and she can talk more in depth on this, but like kids were more apt to learn and teachers were calmer and more patient, and it was just wonderful. It was just a great environment. that's what we want to do. One of the companies is to get into the school systems, and
That's amazing.
have this as a part of some curriculum or extracurricular, and just make a difference. With accessibility too is real important. Like this isn't accessible to everybody. It's just not.
It's just not. It's just not the way of the world yet.
Right.
Yet.
So her schools are definitely places that we want to get into, and for underprivileged and underrepresented communities, and teach them spiritual, like ways to access yourself spiritually, that that you can do. It's free. And also too. And I'm talking a lot about the spiritual, what it does for your immune system.
No,
it's just fucking insane. Like, this is how we build up our immune system. This is a humongous part of it, is, how one, properly breathe, but to also do different exercises. And like hormesis, the idea of hormesis, it's short-term stress, which essentially equals long-term strength. So like going to the gym, right? Going to the gym, you're in a state of hormesis. It's a short-term stress where you're stressing your cells, but that stress equals long-term strength.
Yep.
Well, what happens so much now, because we don't do stuff like that. That's why I love the ice baths that I do, or the cold plunges that I do. Like, those aren't enjoyable. They're enjoyable after the fact, or they're enjoyable like 3/4 of the way through. But they suck initially. I
think I'd enjoy it. I'm like, I know. No, dude, I take even in the winter, I take ice cold showers every day. That's
so important.
But it's just because I don't like hot showers. It's not for any other reason.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know why. It just feels good to take a really cold shower. Yeah. But people are like, that's effing crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's something that certainly is not in the
rare.
Yeah. Well, it's not in, or at least it hasn't been until recently in the scope of, popular discussion, or like,
everyone's like, that's what psychopaths do. You're a psychopath.
It's great though. Like, culture, that's something that people have been doing since the beginning of whenever, taking cold plunges. And
dude,
it's really good for you.
There's something very invigorating about it. It's
you release hormones that like shoot to your brain, that like you feel more clear. It helps with inflammation, specifically with inflammation.
That's probably why it's good.
Precisely. And like, you think about brain inflammation, that's real. So if you have less inflammation in the brain, plus you're releasing these hormones, because you're technically shocking yourself, but it's like, that's what hormesis is. It's like a short-term thing that will ultimately be really beneficial. It's similar, like yoga is it's a form of hormesis, because you're doing something strenuous. You're doing,
right.
So having this effect after the fact too, in addition to inflammation being down, it's like a little turbo boost into optimized city.
I'm laughing because Vicky, like, I went to visit my brother when he lived in Portland, Oregon. We were like, we went camping like on the coast, and it was freezing. Like, you couldn't go in the water. It was like really cold, but like, then I want to go to the water. Yeah. So the only people that went in were like me and my brother's best friend, and like everybody else stayed out. We like ran in, and he like ran the fuck out. And I like was like, I'm in. Like, I just wanted to stay in. Like, I think it's the most amazing feeling.
Yeah. Well, just to give you a little, like, whatever, in terms of how it affects your nervous system too.
I'm curious.
So cold training can vastly strengthen your nervous system, and here's how. So the thing in there's a part of our brain that reads like the externals, and
I wanted to just offer you a drink, which I can't.
Thank you.
See, I did already.
It's like the Willy Wonka style of podcasting.
Yeah, exactly.
It just travels through space.
I'm that good.
Yeah. Willie!
Sorry, you were saying how it affects the nervous system.
So we have this part of our brain that's the intersection between our endocrine system and our nervous system. It's the hypothalamus, right? So it will read the surrounding areas and essentially adjust the body to a state to get back to homeostasis. That's its whole mission, is to get back to homeostasis, which is base level, cool, calm, collected. Like, right? So if it's too hot, the hypothalamus reads the externals. Those open up your glands, your sweat glands, vasodilation. You'll start to sweat and cool down. and you'll get back to homeostasis. If it's too cold, you'll have vasoconstriction where the capillaries close up. It will send all the warm blood from your externals to your vital organs to help maintain even body temperature, homeostasis, right? So when you get into an ice bath or when you take a cold shower, your hypothalamus reads that external. It's like, oh shit, let's get out. One, this is a stress, but two, also let's have this reaction like vasoconstriction. So your capillaries and your blood vessels, they close up, right? Well, when you're able to breathe through that, this is where I'm sure where you start to feel like, oh, wow, this is great. When you're able to breathe through that, primarily exhale, because when you exhale, you activate your vagus nerve, which puts you into a parasympathetic state. So even though you're going through a stress of having this cold water on you, because you can breathe through it calmly, you're telling your hypothalamus that this surrounding that we just had this violent reaction to isn't so bad because we can breathe through it, so we don't have to respond as violently. So then your capillaries, your blood vessels, they open up a little bit more. You get more warmth throughout your externals because your body's not going into survival mode where all the warm blood has to go to your vitals. It can be released into your externals again, and you're all good. So literally by going into the cold water and breathing through it, you're raising the base level of your nervous system response because you had this violent reaction to it, but you were able to breathe through it, telling your system like, chill, we don't have to react on a 10, we can react on a 3, like scale of 1 to 10 type thing. So you're literally raising that response. So now it takes more external stress to stress you out as it did before. So just by taking the cold showers, you're constantly training your nervous system to shorten that gap between like reaction and homeostasis, between that initial thing happening and getting back to homeostasis. That recovery time, that's what we want to shorten. So the more you chip away at that cold showers, you're training your nervous system not to respond so violently to stresses.
So with, am I getting this right? Because this is what it translated to me also, that with breath work, you are training your mind and your body to be better equipped to handle any kind of situation or circumstance.
Yeah, on a mental front, on a physical front,
and on a spiritual front.
Yeah, physiological front. I mean, yes. Like
to me, I think that they all go hand in hand.
It's just total optimization, definitely. Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. It's pretty fascinating. It's like you're like, you poke the bear, because now I'm like, I want to know so much more.
Yeah, it's
I want to try it. That's It's
like the key into the Pandora's box of how we operate and how we work. It's like, it's fucking crazy. Like, I say this in a lot of like the talks or whatever that I give. But I find it fascinating that every modality, every spirituality, every whatever has some kind of sacred name for the breath. Whether it's prana, you can build your ki, you build your chi. Like, it's breath. It's like,
That's what I was saying. It's the thing that people always say, breathe, like it's healing. Like that in and of itself is a healing action. Breath, breathing.
This could have been the last movie that I've seen. It's just you're like, you seen parts of it? Like Avatar, I think. When was that? Years ago or whatever. But I
have to tell you about something after this. Go ahead.
There is a scene in it I remember where they're there and they're chanting and they're all together and they're going through this like, and that's the fucking shit that we do. That's what I mean? We get in groups, a bunch of hippies, and we'll be drumming, but like we'll be entering different kind of states through breath work. Like you can absolutely do that. Like it's been scientifically done through where they've had people on, brain monitors to see the different kind of feedback that they get in different kinds of states through breath work. Or, they did a bunch of stuff with Wim where they tested, his heart rate or his core body temperature during extreme times and like how we can alter that and adjust. And like, there've been endless stories that, people have been able to do these crazy feats because of that power, the power of the breath, the power of the mind.
Do you feel like, so it's funny because you just said like the last movie I saw, do you not watch a lot of television now? Do you not?
Not really.
Do you find that through finding soothing and comfort through breath work and the other things that you've done, that you reach that you less so reach to external things to either, I'll speak for myself, like television, like picking anything up to kind of numb out or to soothe?
Yeah.
They could be one and the same. It depends.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
I'm much more purposeful with my consumption. Like the more that I did and got deeper into it, the more that I wanted to honor my time and just like realize how sacred time is. Like your own time. Like I don't mean to sound whatever this, but like I realized how sacred my time was, and not just because not my time, your time's sacred to you. It has to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's finite in this body. It's not.
Yeah.
It's gonna go. You know. So a big part of it was like, well, what am I focusing on? And like the more that I got deeper into the breath, the more I could see how you can start to push like energies around with just your attention, just giving your attention to things. And I was like, fuck. If that's the case, and I'm physically feeling different parts of my body weighted differently when I'm in these states of breath work because I'm focusing my attention on them, I'm like, well, how much of my attention am I giving away to other things? How much weight am I pushing? And it just was like, wow, I really want to get really purposeful with my consumption. And it's like, you know, I watched an hour of TV yesterday or 40 minutes of TV, but it was very purposeful. I've been on this.
What'd you watch?
Who is the real Jesus Christ?
I haven't watched that.
Yeah, I've been on they're like documentary things, but it's essentially when the Bible split between, you know, James, who was Jesus' brother, and Paul, who was one of the disciples, but written years later. And it was just like, that's when the Jewish traditions or Christian new tradition split from old Jewish tradition.
Yeah.
And, you know, how Jesus was a Jew, and now Christians don't give a fuck that he was a Jew. It's like, it's like Jesus, and it's like, yeah, but the guy that you're praising was this other thing. So how is that? Right? So it's because
but they're the devil.
Things.
They have horns.
Yeah, and in a way, it's funny too. Like, you know, you look at the Mormon religion with John Smith or whatever. It's it's ridiculous. It's funny, but I tell you, Mormons are some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Like, some of the nicest people ever. So it's like, yeah, okay, whatever you believe in, something like kind of crazy, but you're awesome and you treat people well, and that's all I care about is what you
really
do.
all I care, exactly.
I don't give a shit what you believe. I don't give a shit what you say. It's what you do to me that matters. And they're just
the energy you put out to the world and other people, and and how you treat. Right. That's what's really important to me.
So to get it to the Mormon and John Smith thing, so Paul was getting these like visions, you know, in dreams from Jesus, and that's when it was like, no, you don't have to do these like these indoctrinated things like be kosher or like even circumcision, you know, things like that like the dogmatic stuff, that he was like, no, that doesn't matter. It's about this love and how you live and blah, blah, blah. So it was like that split, but point of the whole thing was like, I was like, what do I want to learn about right now? Like, what do we want to you know, to learn, you know? The other things that I'm watching are, I'm into like Bible stuff right now. Just from, I grew up in the church, but I've never been religious. I don't give a shit about religion. More so than like, what are the teachings that they have to teach? And I think especially right now, it's like, it's kind of important. Like, how do these books that have been around for thousands of years, why them? Like, why them? Like, there's something to that question well beyond religion or well beyond
100%.
The belief in a certain like, the belief in a religion, but just getting the stories, whatever. So we've been watching Jordan Peterson's Bible series.
Okay. Where is it on?
YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Jordan Peterson a lot. You might get some hate. You might get some hate mail from people
for looking
for hearing me say that. But I think he's one of the important thinkers of our time right now.
Okay.
But
you're entitled.
He's very misrepresented, and his Bible series is fucking great.
I'm curious. And it's funny because I'm like laughing because you're not like dead set on a, like you're open-minded and you're not religious at all. So I'd be curious, like if he's like misunderstood, and people are like, this guy sucks because you like him. I'm curious now. I want to know more about him.
Yeah. Cool. Go down the rabbit hole. It's great.
I'm kind of I want to research this. But you know what's so funny is that, so everything that we're talking about, it's very purposeful. It's very thoughtful. And it's beautiful. And I've been with you the entire time, but it's also funny to me because I've known you for years and you're also very silly. And
I'm a goofball, yeah.
yeah. And we like laugh a lot. You know what I thought of the other day? I doubt you remember this, but we were in UCB improv, either 101 or 201, whatever class we were in together. And do you remember? I'm like, he was probably so stoned.
Yeah, for sure. I was stoned, but I remember that. It was a great time. It was wonderful.
Dude, it was amazing. We were on stage. It was like, the performance at the end of the class. And whatever it was, and it still cracks me up to this day, you said something to me, and then I said it in this accent where I must have said it like a Southern belle, but I said like I was from, I was like, I'm from, meant to be like Minnesota, but I was like, like, I said it like the biggest Southern belle or something. You were like, you don't sound like you're from Minnesota. Like it totally took it off track, and I was like dying laughing. And whenever I think of it, I laugh so hard.
You know what I think of from that show?
What?
With your move when you turned into the cop.
What? I don't remember this.
Yeah, so something was going on, and like the scene was it was like we were all dragging. I think it was a game or whatever.
Yeah.
And just all of a sudden you're like, all right, everyone stick them up. And like you just turned into this cop, and we're like, what's that? But it was great. Oh, it was so much fun. It was great. I always remember that for like a move to keep in your back pocket. You know how you see moves and you're like, I'm gonna take that. And
that's
store it away for. It was brilliant. It was so funny. But I remember that. That's one of the moves. So.
That's so funny because I don't remember that at all. I do remember one time in class we had to go around and keep the rap going, and I was like, and I couldn't think of anything, and I'm like, so you want to be hardcore? Like, something like that. And everybody was like, what? Like, it was so weird. Dude, that was fun. It was fun as hell. All right.
You know UCB shut down.
What?
UCB shut down, man.
Like, because of this or?
Done. Yeah.
Since Corona?
Apparently there are some, I don't know, like, I don't know the inner workings, but since they like have been getting bigger and bigger, I guess there were more and more problems, that kind of thing. But yeah, the Corona, I think, was the straw that broke the camel's back. But like last week, yeah. I'm shocked. That was one of the few times. There have been a few times where like things have happened where it has like hit me.
See,
that was one of them. I went through, like, I love UCB, man.
UCB was awesome. I like, it's interesting because I've had mixed feelings about it since, not the school itself.
The community?
The community and the way that it doesn't matter if you've studied improv, being a casting director in that sense, like seeing that it doesn't matter if you have a lot of experience with improv, they want people that are in UCB, in their community, doing, groups and all that stuff. Otherwise, it kind of doesn't even matter that you have improv experience. And it's it kind of frustrates me because there are so many other great ways of doing improv. I'm not a, it has to be one certain way. But
I'll be honest, I personally, for actors, don't think that UCB was the best improv place for actors for performing. I think it was the best. I think it had the best performers, for sure. The performers at UCB, in my opinion,
they were
and this is just my opinion, they were the best in the city.
They were so skilled, man.
But I don't personally think that the games or the skills necessarily that you acquired from UCB helped your acting performing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Pit or Magnet rather, and the Annoyance I thought was really good for that too.
You were there for a while.
Yeah, which focused a lot on character, not necessarily game, but character.
The game, right?
So there. But I will say this: like UCB to me was the best. It was the like the Mecca. It was like the place where you wanted to study. It was the place where you saw, oh shit, that dude is on SNL and he's 10 feet away from me. Exactly. And I'm studying the same place as him. Like,
it's crazy. I know.
All right, I'm in the right place. Like that was the thing. But then it got Rage Against the Machine, man. You know, it just got too big for its own good, I think. And
That's what I think.
I'll tell you, when it moved, like there was a piece of me when it moved from Chelsea that was like, oh, it's not the same. Like once I saw the building, I was like, whoa,
I know.
This will never be the same.
It's really strange. That's why, like, I know Corona happened, and maybe it was due to that, but like, I feel like there must have been a lot of stuff happening for it to have hit that point.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I don't know.
It's, you know, I love that place. That place is a hallowed ground for me.
I can't. I have to take that in. Like, that's crazy to me.
It rocked me a little bit. It's an institution. Like, to me, it was because
I'm
what
shocked.
was it? Improv Olympic closed down in LA and Chicago, I believe, and
that's
like,
so nuts. I can't
so
believe
now
it
it's
shut
like
down.
Groundling, Second City,
Yeah.
Annoyance in Chicago.
I cannot. I didn't hear that. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Wow. I have to take that in on a whole other level.
I know, man. So yeah, let it sink. But
yeah. But wow.
It's shame. It affected me as well. For
Yeah.
Sure.
Are you going to be, you think we'll be seeing you acting anytime soon, or doing your own stuff that you feel like?
My own stuff for sure. If the right role comes along, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I'm at the point, like, that's what I mean. Like, for the past 2 years, more than that now, I've set it up to where it's like, if I don't want to do a role, I don't want to just do it because it's like there. Like, that's precisely what I wanted to get away from.
Yeah.
Being like, oh my God, someone wants me? Yeah, right. Yeah. Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like, fuck off. Like,
exactly.
Like,
I know.
You know, so
just,
if something, like, I have friends that are writers and directors that, I constantly talk with, and when some, like, you know,
when it's right,
when it's right, it's,
yep.
I'm gonna do it for sure. And
yeah,
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
You know, big time. It's like I've never stopped doing it. I just wanted to reprioritize other areas of my life.
Yep. It makes complete sense. And they go hand in hand. And just because there's a pause in one thing, it'll make it greater when you go back to it with what you have right now, which is really beautiful.
Yeah, I think so. The experience as well. Like, I've gotten to travel, like, I mean, kind of around the world, but like a lot. And just the experiences just from that, and the people that I meet, and, you know, it just adds much more to the life pie than waiting on a call, or like feeling, you know, angst or like guilt if you did leave. Like, I remember, you know, this is maybe like 6 or 7 years ago, where it's like, okay, I was living with someone at the time, and we were like, we hadn't been on a vacation, and okay, let's go. And then sure enough, like, once I released that, like, anxiety of like things coming in, and like you put so much out as
you got an audition.
Yeah, so of course when I was like, oh, okay, well that's gone for it, I got like 2 or 3, and I was like, you know, this is for like, we gotta adjust type thing. And like, you know, that's not fair. Like, I don't want to have to ever do that with like my life and be on someone else's dime. And it's like, nah, man, that's not. Especially as I get older, it's like doing that shit in your 20s is whatever, but like as you get older, it's like, it's sad. I look at it more. It's like, you know, I don't want to not be able to. And I was always under the impression too, where if like you had to be an artist, you had to be a starving artist, and like I did that for a long time.
Yeah.
And it was like, it doesn't. Why?
That's not truth.
No, it's not at all. Like, why can't you be successful in this other area of life and also be successful in your craft? It's like,
it's a misconception, but it's a very deeply ingrained one. I think that artists and actors really take to heart. Like, I have to be this, like, or it's just, there's no other way. There's no other way. You just are, if you are an actor or an artist.
And like, you know, you can't have another thing. Like, if you're, you know, even a lot, and I felt this way for a while. Like, you work in a restaurant, how are you an actor? Like, you're a waiter. Like, that's, you know, and I did that for a while, and it was like, I always get into like, you're an actor, like, so, you know, what are you doing for money? Like, that kind of question, or like those things. It's like, you know, they kind of eat away at you, where, you know.
And it's amazing, because being very involved, you know, being a casting director also, you just hear all the time agents and other casting directors, and they're like, yeah, you can't have a job during the day. If we call you, like, you can't have a full-time job. You can't be doing something else. You have to be available to go. And it's like, so that nobody can do anything else. Like, it's just
right. I got that for years. And then it was like, then how do I pay my rent? Like, explain to me. And it's like, explain to, like, and not looking, not like, yeah, okay, buddy, I'll do it. It's like, no, literally explain to me, give me the steps in order to do it. And that was one of the things, like, that was one thing I love about Abe, where he was like, you can always tell a bad director because they'll give a result-oriented direction, you know? And it's like, you got to do this. And it's like, okay, well, help me. Do that, because I'm not one, seeing it logically, and I'm not feeling it. For it to come, how do I just not do anything and then
arrive there?
Like, what jobs do I get? How do where am I looking for? Like, how to help me, like, organize this? And it's like, that was just not the case. It was like, no, it is what it is. And it's like, okay, well, that's fine if you're like 15, 16, 17 years old. I guess that's, you know, one of the reasons why they want them young. One of the reasons.
Yeah. I'm like,
the older that I get, I'm like, oh my God. So creepy. It's so creepy and dirty. And like, it's like, I'm an adult. Like, I'm 36 years old. I think I'm 36, somewhere around there. And like, some of the shit that I hear, I'm like, motherfucker, how does that equate? And you like, oh God, someone's got to. I get violent in my head, man. I get, you know.
Dude, some stuff will bring that out. It's crazy. It's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
So it's wild, man. I want you to tell us where people can find you. All right. So, like, my ass wants to do breath work with you. Like, where can people get in touch with you? And maybe study some of this. Go for it.
Like, my personal website is michaelchristoforo.co.
And I'm going to put all this, by the way, everybody listening and watching, and Mike, I'll be putting this info also.
Great.
So people can just click on it with the episode, but please tell us anyway.
One of the companies we have is Fertile Soil. That's another company where we're exploring the intersection of plant medicine, breath work, and meditation for optimal living. So we do, you know, cool events where we'll either go through, you know, the science of different plants or breath work in particular, and then we'll, you know, have a gathering. So fertilesoil.co is those are really cool events to check out, at fertilesoil.co on Instagram as well, or just I don't know if I gave my Instagram, but at M Christoforo is my Instagram one. Yeah, at M Christoforo is my personal one.
Awesome. And so on Big Face, every week there is a portion that is called A Feather in Your Cap. And so by feather in your cap, I mean a success, an achievement, or something that you've learned that has either helped you or could help you in the future, that you'd be willing to, and maybe something you've learned especially during this time, but that is a feather in your cap that you may offer to our viewers, listeners, that might help them.
Oh, that's great. What a great segment. That's awesome.
I love that.
Hell yeah, feather in your cap. I dig it. So I would say the thing that has helped me the most over the past decade is to seek mentors. Like, so often we just look at our immediate surroundings. For me, it was, you know, my family. It was my parents and my brother, to fulfill like all the areas of your life that you feel are missing, or that you want guidance and things like that. And like, really looking at it objectively and being like, everyone's human. We excel at different things and we suck at some things, you know? So I wanted to really prioritize my life according to my values and according to the morals and the virtues and how I wanted to live. And I was like, who are the people that are doing the things that I want in those different life areas? And I would seek them out and just follow their habits and, you know, start broadening the perspective of, tools in which, you know, I could live according. It's just like tools in my tool bag that I could live according to. So seek mentors in different life areas, and yeah, find yourself within that.
That's a great one and a beautiful one, and thank you for that.
I think it's important. You know, like I've seen, just for me, like seeing the people in my immediate life is like, oh, okay, they don't know this either. And everyone's full of shit. And that's the thing, is like you get older, you realize no one, aside from the people that like have actually done it themselves and actually done it, no one fucking knows. So it's like, you know, find the people that have and figure it out yourself, but like find yourself within it. But, you know, seek mentors.
That's such a beautiful one, because I know for myself, like, I think I'm supposed to know all the answers, and I think that everybody else was given the instruction manual on how to do everything in life, but I just didn't get it.
Right.
And it's not the case, and I have to get better with asking for help and admitting I don't know something, and that's okay.
And
we're not supposed to know everything.
Yeah, my God, because think about it, right? Thank God you didn't know. You wouldn't. Would you want to be the same person you were at 21? Like,
oh,
no.
Jesus.
You have to grow. Like, we have to fail. Like, I was talking about that today with Kathy. Just like the idea of like we were talking about children, but like letting people fail. Like, we have to fail, and it's not a failure that, oh, I'm a failure. It's like, oh, this thing didn't work, so let's choose another thing or pick another way, and then that thing works, and it's like, oh, I'm the thing that's resourceful. It's not necessarily this external thing that's fun, but it's me finding the way. And that's what you start to see is like, oh, I have more power within me than I thought. I can be more resourceful than I was, you know, that I was believing before.
For too long in my life, and I could still do this at times, I can look at difficult things that I've been through and be upset that I went through those difficult things or that I failed at this. Whereas now I look back at things and I'm like, fuck yeah, I remain a fighter. I got up. I got through that. I kept pushing. I kept working. I am here because I would not settle for that. But I had to feel that. I had to fail. I had to fall. I had to hurt.
Yeah. There's, I think it was Marcus Aurelius. I'm really into Stoicism. I love, like, I don't have a religion, whatever, but I definitely follow Stoicism as a philosophy. And I think it was Marcus Aurelius, but he said, no man is unhappy as he who has never been given the chance to prove himself. And it's like the only way that we prove ourselves are when we fall. And like, how do you get up? Do you do it, you know, do you do it nobly? How do you, we all fall.
That's really beautiful. And if you think, just as an example, a lot of times you see in things like Hollywood where people have everything and they are absolutely miserable. I think there's something to be said about having to work for things, have to show yourself, have to try, and not just be a blob that doesn't have to try for any of that stuff, you know? That's just a small example, but totally. on what you said, but
I think that is a value, like the idea of temperance. You know, it's been equated to alcohol, you know, and
very much
more
so
now. But temperance in terms of the idea where it's like, even though you can do something, you don't have to just for the sake of not being gluttonous or not being like overindulgent.
Mm-hmm.
But like being able to do it and knowing you can, but not choosing not to, just to experience that, like that feeling. It's almost like you're strengthening your will, like you're strengthening your self-control. But I think that's lost. I think, you know, so many of our extravagances are indulged.
It's funny because I literally just had this conversation with somebody recently about that, about just not drinking and not doing something, just not to. And I think, and we were talking about things maybe being different, that life may look different after all of this Corona stuff. And I just hope that what is so comfortable for humanity and those extravagances and going back to the same kinds of comfort won't be so easy. I hope people have to pause and think and start to incorporate some uncomfortability or just some differences, just to not be the same as before.
You know where I think we're going to see a lot of that? I was
Where?
talking to my brother, and one of his buddies is like pretty high up politically out west, but in beef.
You think so?
Yeah, in beef specifically, like in our meat.
I've thought about that.
Over the next couple months, there's going to be a big shortage because the disease is like running rampant. But
Yep.
beef specifically, and then it's gonna, we'll see what happens after that. But right now, it's already in the works. So in a couple of weeks, like there'll be but I wonder things like that, like, if how we are going to start changing our perspective on our luxuries once something as simple as like not enough meat, or as we had before. It's like, well, where does that come from, and why is there a shortage,
Right.
and how does this affect this, and what, just starting to piece all the puzzles together to where we become more familiar and more intimate with our food. I think that's a huge part of it too. I think that's one of the blessings of Corona is like people have to cook a lot more, and you have to stay in, and you have to even just go through the process of cooking, and understanding, like
Being
understanding.
thoughtful.
Total mindful eating. Yeah.
And the planet, I mean, talk about breathing, the very air that we breathe, the planet is doing so much better right now because we are not out there destroying it the way we were. And I really hope that people are more thoughtful with how they treat the very space that we dwell in, we'll see.
Yeah. It's also one of those things where it's like the Mother Nature, the planet Earth, she'll be all right, man. She'll long out survive us. We have to protect ourselves. And like Mother Nature is one of those things where it's like, it's truth. It doesn't let you lie. You know what I'm saying? That's why I think friends and good friends give each other the most shit, because they don't let each other lie, because Mother Nature won't let you lie. And it's one of those things where it's like, we can pretend all we want about our practices and things like that, but we're fucking ourselves up. Just with us not being around, Mother Nature's fine. She's going to be fine. Literally, she tries to kill us at every chance. Like, we have been surviving her for a long, like, as long as we... But she
doesn't bullshit us.
She don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Right? So I hope it's one of those things where it's like we stop lying in terms of the practices that we are performing, and just the awareness of how much of an impact we can have. Not a vital impact towards Earth, but a vital impact towards us. Like, she'll be fine. Ma Nature, she's much stronger than our dumbass.
Any of us, our dumbasses, exactly. I hope we're not as dumb. I hope we can come around a little.
Yeah.
Mikey Pants.
I know. For hours we could do this. Huh?
I know. Mikey Pants. All right. So thank you guys for watching or listening to Big Face. Thank you so much, Mikey Christoforo.
Sammy, I love
so
you.
much. I love you so much. All your info is going to be, people are going to be reaching out and seeing all the good stuff you're doing. And I love you, man. Thanks. I'm so happy to see your face. And
first of any of these.
Yeah.
You'll be like Joe Rogan with like thousands of them. I'll be on like 4 of them.
That's great. What I'm thinking, man. We're gonna explore the whole process together, time and time again. All right, I love it. Peace, guys. Thank you so much, Mikey. Mwah.
See you.